Open up your notebook to your table of contents and put in your new topic on the next odd page. So for Miss Reddick, it's page 9. And the topic is compare and order rationals. Compare and order rationals. You can pause the video right now if you need to copy that. Otherwise, go ahead and flip to that page and we're going to get started. Go ahead and write your title. Again, that's compare and order rationals. And remember, rationals are just fractions, decimals, and percents. Your essential question for the day is, how would you teach a 5th grader to compare 3/10 and 7/15? How would you teach a 5th grader to compare 3/10 and 7/15? That's something you should be able to answer by the end of class time tomorrow. Okay, let's go ahead and get our notes for today. There's no foldable. We just have 2 things we're looking at. We're looking at comparing and we're looking at ordering. So let's start with comparing. I know this is a lot of notes, but let's copy all of this down. There are 2 steps to comparing. The first thing you have to do before you can compare is convert all of the rationals into the same form. Usually we're going to put them all in decimal form, but before you can compare anything, they have to be in the same form. The second thing you have to do is know and use your symbols. These are symbols that we have seen before, but we kind of forget them. That's this thing right here, the less than and greater than. And you'll notice I didn't write 2 different signs for less than and greater than. I just wrote one. And that's because you can actually read it either left to right or right to left. Whichever side has the small point, it's got less space, that's your less than side. Whichever side it opens up big to, that's your greater than side. So this is your less than, greater than symbol. This next symbol is a new one probably to most of you. It's less than or equal to, or greater than or equal to. It's the same symbol as your less than, greater than symbol, but it's got this little equal to bar at the bottom. And we'll talk a little bit about what that means, but it's just important for now that you start to recognize that symbol. Okay, let me show you what I mean. We know that 3 is less than 10, right? So I can read this as 3 is less than 10, or I can read this as 10 is greater than 3. 3 is less than 10, 10 is greater than 3. We're going to do lots of practice with that in class, so don't stress out about it if that's overwhelming having to look at it this way. But just remember, the small side is the small number, the big side is the big number. And there's actually a cute little alligator picture of that on your helpful hints, your homework help page at the beginning of your notebook. You can pause if you need to, so I'm about to move the work so you won't be able to see it all. The second thing we do is order, okay? We compare and we order. Comparing is using the symbols. Ordering means putting them in order, putting numbers in order, smallest to biggest or biggest to smallest. The first thing you have to do is get all of the rationals into the same form. Do you notice that that's the same thing as step 1 in comparing? Whether you're comparing or ordering, we've got to have all of our rationals in the same form, usually all decimals. That's typically the easiest one to work with. After you've got all of your rationals in the same form, you just put them in order. For fractions, this is really important. You can't put fractions in order unless they have the same denominator. You've got to get a common denominator before you can put fractions in order. And it's not always very easy to get a common denominator for a lot of values, and that's why typically we use decimals. So for fractions, you have to get a common denominator. For decimals, you line up the decimal and add zeros. Line up the decimal and add zeros. If you don't have this copied yet, go ahead and pause and copy because I'm about to work an example with you and I want you to be able to follow along. Okay, I want to compare 3/10, 142 thousandths, and 96 hundredths. So first thing I'm going to do is line up my decimals. Do you see that I've done that? And then I'm going to add zeros. When I say add zeros, what I mean is I want you to put all of them at the same place value, okay? You can always add zeros after the decimal and it does not change the value of a number. So instead of trying to compare tenths with hundredths with thousandths, I'm going to make them all thousandths. With my 3/10, I'm going to put 2 zeros behind it to make it 300 thousandths. My 142 thousandths is already in thousandths form. And my 96 hundredths, I'm going to add another 0 to make it 960 thousandths. Now I can just look at the numbers and see which one's bigger. Well, 960 is the largest. $300 is the middle. And 142 is the smallest. That's it for notes for today. We will get lots of practice on this in class. Thanks for doing your homework.